Hello.
Hello.
Hi,
Yes.
Thomas. How are you?
Good.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so Sushma, it's 4-2. We'll wait for
We
some
are
people more, right?
3 more minutes here. Whoever has joined, can you please share with your families and friends so that everyone can take advantage of this webinar?
Yeah, you can share the link in your group. I have shared the link in YouTube. I will share the YouTube link in your WhatsApp group as well. We will be going live on YouTube as well.
ഏതൊരു ഗ്രൂപ്പിലൊരു ലിങ്ക് ഉണ്ടതാ അതല്ലേ ഇതിന്റെ ഇത് വായിച്ചു നോക്കിയപ്പോ വെബിനാർ ആണ്.
Okay. Sushma, we can start.
Okay.
Okay,
Many are
let people
the
join.
eight.
Yeah, we can start with the story. And
Yes. You can see my screen
yeah,
presentation, right?
yes.
Fine. Good afternoon, everyone. Today we have 21st webinar and the topic is career hack. Very interesting topic. And thank you for registration. You have spare your time at this hour on the weekend. So definitely we'll have so much to take away from this webinar. We have amazing speaker with us and I'll be talking about her very shortly. Why is networking and learning group? How did we start? What is the aim of the group? We started with a concept called Luncheon in 2018 December. We were 6 of us, and that was offline networking, so in person. And Luncheon concept is still on across the globe. We moved on and renamed it as the Networking and Learning Group. As the name suggests, this group is purely to network, learn, and share knowledge with each other. If you want to share your knowledge, your experiences, please let us know and you will be the speaker probably in a week or two on the same platform. Before we move forward, I would request you all to invite and share this webinar link with your friends and family so that everyone can take advantage of this webinar. Please invite others so that they can join in now. You can connect us on our Facebook group. We have a group on LinkedIn as well and WhatsApp groups as well. Please share the link with your other friends and family members as well so that they can also join our group. My name is Sushma and I'm an HR generalist by profession working in Dubai. The group was founded by two of us, which is me and Jason Abraham. Jason is an internal auditor and a quality assurance professional. He works with a government entity in Sharjah. Again, please share and learn from each other's experiences. That's the motto of our group. Now, the next part is story. A story with a moral. What's the story today? The story is about a wealthy man and his son. This wealthy man tells his son, today I'm going to take you to the village and show how poor people are. Since we are blessed with so much of wealth, we have everything within our reach. Let's see how poor people live. And he takes him to a village where there are few people. So they stay there for few days, father and the son, along with the village people. After staying there for few days, they are back to their place, and father asks the son, so son, tell me, how was your trip to the village? And the son says, it was indeed an interesting trip. So father asked him, can you please tell me more in detail about the trip? And the son says, we have only one dog and they have 4. We have a boundaried place for our protection where we stay, a small place, while they have immense land, so many open fields. We have a small balcony for us, while they have an open sky with so many stars. On hearing this, the father was very much surprised. He had seen a different view, a different perspective from his son, where father wanted to show his son how wealthy they were. Instead, the son showed him a different perspective where the villagers are wealthy. So this is life. What we have is little. What we can get, what we can learn is immense. I hope the story has got some moral for you all. Jason, can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes. Please go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Am I audible, Jason?
Yes.
You are, Sushma. You're audible.
Okay. Sorry, I thought I'm not audible. So the story ended here, and now there are certain rules to follow for the session so that everyone can get maximum from this webinar. Always stay on mute so that participants and the speaker are not disturbed. You may use the chat box. You may use the chat box for comments or questions. You can also use the reaction buttons. Once the speaker finishes the session, there will be Q&A at the end. So you may type in the questions and we will be taking it at the end. You may take notes or take screenshots as you like. Who is the speaker today? Her name is Soumya Baveja. She is an audit manager for internal as well as external audit. She works with PwC currently. She has experience with financial markets, group treasury, and private equities. She has she's audit expertise with international financial institutions, asset management, and investment companies. Now over to you, Soumya. Thank you for being in with us here and having this webinar.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sushma. That was a wonderful story. And thank you for the introduction as well. As Sushma mentioned, my name is Soumya Baveja. I work with PricewaterhouseCoopers PwC Dubai. I've been, as a career background, Sushma's already provided a wonderful background that I've been involved in the financial services line of services of assurance within PwC Dubai.
Soumya, you are on mute. Please unmute yourself.
No, she's okay. I think we can hear you, but her video is not clear.
Is it better now?
No, we can't see you.
I have two.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Jason, can you see my video well?
No, I can't see you. I can't see you. Yeah, you're audible, but I can't see you. Yeah, now it's fine.
No?
Now it's fine.
Wonderful. All right. I'm seeing through two videos then in that case. Just as a background that Sushma's already provided, I work with the financial services line of business with PricewaterhouseCoopers. I've been involved in a variety of projects, including internal audit, external audit, advisory for some of the leading banks here in the Middle East, some international banks and asset management companies. Well, that's a little bit about me and my career. I've also been in the region in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, past 11 years, before which I was based in India. That's just a little bit about myself. So I've done half of my schooling in India, half in the UAE. The purpose of this webinar is essentially on career hacks, right? And as Jason and Sushma have rightly said towards the beginning of the session, that we will be speaking, I will be given the floor for about 30 to 40 minutes, followed by an open Q&A session and just being open and talking to each other about our experiences. If you have any specific questions to ask me, if you have any more concerns, do you agree with me? If you don't have, if for instance you do not agree with me, you could instantly voice out your opinion at the end of it, and that's pretty much it. I would aim to make this conversation as interactive as possible, and at the same point in time, will be open for all your comments and queries in the end. Now, you guys, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful. So we are already done with the introduction, and without further ado, I'm going to start with some of the career hacks. So when I was talking to Jason earlier during the week, and we were coming up with the idea for career hacks, I asked myself this question as to why am I giving something as important as career hacks? Do I really have it in me to be an expert in the subject matter? Do you really think I am that capable or an overachiever for that matter in order to be giving such a speech and having such a webinar to such a wider platform? And that got me to the very first career hack, in my opinion, which is I'm as good as I think I am, where my first career hack to everybody here and my suggestions to everyone is that you're only as good as you think, and you're always in a constant battle of I am proud of where I am, but I have to work harder for where I can see myself or I have myself that potential. And that's the very first career hack to all on this call. I'm a very ardent believer of the fact that we will only be able to achieve as much as we can if we think that there's always a scope for more. And the minute you start thinking about, oh, I am the best person in the room, I'm going to be I know it all, I'm a subject matter expert, and that's when probably it's down the drill. I've seen a lot of people in my career where I have known, as soon as they think that the best people in the room and they're superior and they know it all in their subject matter, whether it's accounts, finance, art, designing, marketing, engineering, doctor, that's when you would see a difference in your professional values, your personal values. It basically leads to an opportunity cost where you're basically debarring yourself from the additional knowledge and the growth that you could potentially have if you're able to believe you're the best in the room. Hence, the very first career hack to everyone on is that don't consider yourself to be the do not I'm not saying don't be proud of yourself. I'm not saying that you should not have confidence. You should have confidence. You should celebrate the little success that you have, a bonus, a progression, a promotion, a new job, new opportunities. But at the same point in time, always crave for more. There's always opportunity for more. There's all the time you would be able to see where you can learn more, you can progress more, you will be able to prosper more. So just have at the back of your mind, yes, I'm good enough. I'm proud of myself, but I can do better. I can be much better. I can earn better. I can have a better living. I could be a better individual in a lot of aspects in life. So that's the very first career hack from my side. I'm no career matter expert. I'm not a career expert by profession, but these are the small tricks and tips that I've learned over the past few years in my life. We work in a very competitive environment, and then, hence it's very difficult for us to take a step back and to be able to see how we're doing, where are we, and where we want to grow. And it's very important to stay grounded and always look out for more opportunities, because the day we believe that we know it all, I am the best person, and I know, and I'm the best at what I do. I'm the master of the area that I look after. That's where you're probably losing out a lot more opportunity that you will potentially be looking for. That's the very first hack from my end. The second hack that I have is define your values. So I'm during the session, I would aim to go on softer areas and probably touch base on much more stronger areas towards the end of it, which is basically defining your values. Somebody who knows me would know that I always say this. You need to know what your values and work ethics are. I've had instances in my life where I've noticed that a person may not be able, will sometimes goes too much in the flow. We're all so busy in our life, in the rat race that we are in, that we go in the flow and take every day as it comes, just keeps doing what our bosses say, whether it's a senior manager, manager, bosses for that matter. And then every day is just a matter of chasing, getting up, going to the office, just doing what we've been told to do. And in the process, we somehow lose our own identity, our own professional identities. And it's very important, if there are any people on the call who are in the starting stages of the career or advanced or even looking out for a retirement for that matter, you would understand how important it is for you to yourself to define what defines you, your work, and your professional life. It could be as simple as, I can give you an example. I had some of my colleagues who joined with me, and I realized that they were much loved by the seniors ahead. And that was potentially because it was always agreeing to what the bosses were saying. They were always on their foot, or for example, always in the office during weekends. A lot of them, if you're in the Middle East, you'll see that's a normal culture too. A lot of people have pushing those additional hours of the weekend, and they were always very loved by the senior people, and they could grow, and they probably were growing a little quicker than probably people who were not going to the office of the weekend. And that got me thinking as to why is that so. And then you during that investigation, I realized that you got to define what works with you, and you got to define what doesn't work with you. And that's essentially is your values and ethics. If you really think agreeing to the bosses all the time and doing what they say is something that's going to take them ahead in life, it's going to take them ahead in life, but then that does not work for you and that's not something that goes okay with you, it's not permissible within your professional ethics and your values and your professionalism, that's for you to decide. That's for each and everybody, for you to know that this is my boundaries, this is what I go through. Now, another tangent to defining your values could also mean something as simple as, which we'll touch base later in life, which is work-life balance, which is essentially defining, for example, every Friday, I'm not going to work. I'm not going to open my laptop. I'm always going to be, I'm going to take the day off, or I'm going to devote my time to doing what is for my particular soul, for running, for doing some sports, spending time with family, for kitchen, for any sort of things that is important to you. That is also your value. That is also your ethics. And that's something that you would not easily compromise with. So my very well suggestion to you, um, do not compromise with your values. Do not compromise with your ethics. Do not just spend some time, take a step back and define what defines your work. Because ideally, in the end of it, at the end of our career, you know that career, you would just probably be chasing your bosses and being in the rat race. And like they say that, sometimes you climb up the Mount Everest, but you forgot to enjoy the journey. It's going to be something along those same lines. And you probably just have to take a step back and say, okay, this works for me. I'm going to define this. This is my ethics, and this is what I work for, and this is what I'm going to continue working for. This is one of the second hack that I can share with you. While we're at it, I can also say that this is something that I've realized over a period of time, and it has not come to me easy. It's come to me with at a cost, because when you're defining your values, you could be missing out on some opportunities. But at the end of it, when I missed an opportunity or that growth or that promotion or that small little bonus that I could have got, I know I got it, but I did not compromise on my values. I'm not going to do anything wrong. And if I didn't get it, I'm proud of it because I didn't get it, because I knew if I would have done it the other way, I could have got it. And that feeling in the end that comes when you define it, it's amazing. It's you could be proud of it. You could stand up for it, and you could always say, I'm not going to compromise on this ever again. And that is a beautiful feeling in my experience. What we often see around, specifically for people who join my team, or people, the new associates who join Big Four. And if you've been in the background, it's very competitive, you would know. I feel people forget to do that. People just try to mold themselves in the environment we are in, and that's not us. And you want to be known when you do some work that that is XYZ's work. So that is Soumya's work. This is what she does, and she's not going to compromise on it. I remember having this discussion with my career coach about 7 months ago, and I'm like, I know if I do it the other way, I might just get promoted in just no time. But I don't want to do it. I don't think I have it in me to do it, and I will not be able to look at myself if I do it. So what are we going to do? Okay, let's take a step back. You think this is the way to grow, you think that's not going to work out, we're going to take a step back. We're not going to condemn what other people are saying, but we're going to find an alternative to get to the same result. And that in itself is a learning for life, that there are always ways out. If you're defining your values and not doing something because your ethics don't allow you, that doesn't mean you suffer. You find a way out, but it's just about realizing it. It's about you defining it, and it's about you having to set them beforehand. That's the second one. In my opinion, the next one is continuous investment. So all of us, when we were kids, right, we were told go to school, then you go to university or your college, and then probably go professional degrees, and further up you would go to your masters and your MBAs, and so on and so forth. And then that's when you start working, and then you retire, and during the process comes your life and your families, etc. But during the process, have we ever wondered that a lot, and specifically, there's a research that says, specifically women, we somehow forget that knowledge, education is a continuous investment. We forget that in the process. Now, when I say continuous investment, I don't mean that everybody starts going and enrolling themselves into professional courses or masters and MBA. If further education does not attract you, that's not what we're referring to. But continuous investment in doing and educating yourself in various aspects. Now, that could be mental health, that could be spiritual health, that could be physical health, that could be a skill, that could be a hobby, that could be any particular, um, it could be any particular other aspect of your career. For example, if you're in finance, but you also believe that you want to learn coding or understand how Python works or how Alteryx works. These are professional computer softwares and will come to the futuristic aspect of it. And these are areas which are outside your comfort zone, outside your area of expertise. Make an attempt to do it. Make an attempt for you to be able to open the textbooks. There are zillions of options now available on Coursera. There are other websites which are now giving free courses, and I'm talking about actually Ivy League universities providing such courses for you to be able to take successes. So, in my opinion, if you take a step back and make sure that you're able to invest in yourself in any other aspect, even if it's non-educational sector, but even if it means um, you having to do it in a social aspect or a psychological course or say a hobby or say a skill. I know an aunt of myself, aunt, when her kids went to the States to study, she involved herself I remember she has a yoga class, then she has a musical instrument, then she's singing at some point, and then she has meditation class, and she kept us incredibly busy. And that got me thinking that, there is so much out there in the world that you need to do. It's not just about getting a course or a degree and adding it to your LinkedIn account or your CV. It's about making an attempt at all phases of your career in order to grow, and you realize how much that happens. Now, taking a different tangent to this investment also. So, for example, people who are young, early in their 20s and 30s, if you are going and learning into a skill, for example, learning baking or going to a yoga class or a dance class, I've seen instances where there were opportunities for entrepreneurs to come up through these ideas because there was a person who was very good in baking cute sweet treats in the yoga class after the yoga, and somebody just casually suggested, oh, you're amazing, why don't you start a home cook and cookery classes, or why don't you start selling it? And there came a new idea that led to a budding idea, a new entrepreneur, and they were able to register themselves with the government, and soon enough they were a popular home baker and were doing good for their life. And then age didn't matter. What mattered was the skill, and what mattered was the courage to be able to continuously involve yourself in the learning process. It was always an investment. It does not always mean investment in terms of your content or in terms of your money. It means investing in time, investing in the energy to be able to do it. Another way I would suggest you could probably do perhaps would be, just imagine we're all I'm coming from a financial service background where my area of expertise is accounts and finance. And suddenly I realized that, I want to do something different. I want to go start learning probably cooking. That's something that I do for my hobby, and I start taking it very seriously. That's an investment of my resource, that's an investment of my time, and that's going to get me something out of it. And it just sometimes may not necessarily translate into monetary returns. It sometimes is beyond that. You sometimes find a purpose in life through it. Sometimes you find some different sort of satisfaction through it. Because see, by the end of the day, career is a part of life. Our jobs are a part of life, but do they actually define your whole entire life? We somehow get involved in that rat race and we forget that, but that's certainly not the case. There's always a difference. There is always a second line that we need to follow, and in my opinion, it's very important for us to be able to define it. Hence, continuous investment, learning, innovation is the utmost important fact in today's time, given the dynamics of today's world. And if we see COVID for that matter, and since we're touching base on this, things have changed. Industries focus have changed. The way things were done pre-COVID, post-COVID is enormously different. Who would have thought that these sessions would have happened on Zoom? Who would have thought that it could work for the rest of our lives in these Zoom sessions? Who could have known that we would have so much reliance on e-commerce? Who would have known that we no longer need spaces for offices that much? Who would have known that life is going to change for a very long period of time and things are never going to go back to normal? And these are the areas where I feel continuous investment in learning is utmost important because that helps you keep up with the dynamics. No stubborn thought process is going to survive in today's time. For any business, for any entrepreneur, and for any employee, whether you're working with somebody, constant is the only change. You just have to keep coming up, keeping up with the world. You have to adapt yourself. And I believe constant learning and investment to just learn every day more is one of the most important factor. And I think it's in this test of survival of the fittest. I think that's one arm that you're going to have and it's always going to be of use for you guys. So that's one of the other hacks from mine. And like I said again in the beginning, I'm no career guru. I am just sharing my experiences. I was a very rigid employee initially in the very first few years of my career, and I was like, no, this is the right way to do it. I'm gonna do this. And a few years down the line, I realized that's not the way. It's not gonna take me long if if I'm stubborn and I don't look out for different ways of looking at and doing things. So that's something that is very personal to me, and that has not come easy yet again to me. And and I hope you all take this opportunity, go back, look at things, draw, and it could be something as very silly as, working out 15 minutes a day, just 15 minutes a day. I mean, it might feel that what are you learning out of it, but you would realize that that's a new sort of routine that you're building. It's a new sort of learning experience that you have, a new sort of lifestyle that you're running towards, and then that you're learning it. So learning does not always mean bookish knowledge. It encompasses a lot more areas and a lot more opportunities. So that's another tip from my end. Now, coming to discipline and organization. Now, this is something that all career gurus and career experts in HR, Sushma would agree with me, would basically imply. You have to be disciplined and organized in all aspects of your life. I particularly was not one of the most organized human beings at a point in time, and I realized that was not giving me mental peace because I was not organized in my brain. I was organized at work in terms of what needs to do and how do I need to approach it, but then I realized sometimes diarizing it, use of calendars, use of concepts such as Gantt charts. I know that might be very old school, but I'm still very particular about how things run, making sure that everything goes to my diary till date is something that is very personal to me. And I personally want to enjoy that. I personally want to enjoy that whole entire process. So I am a kind of, given that background, I believe that it's very important for us to be able to get that discipline and organization into perspective and into our careers and life. And that's that stays for a long time with you. Once you're organized with something and you approach it in a particular way, you would be able to see that there is a lot more in life for you to be able to do than to be able to lose out to. So once you're organized, you will say that you'll be able to look at things which are very difficult very easily because you'll be able to break them down. It will be of utmost use for you because you will be able to see how easy those difficult things looked out, because just because you approach it in the most organized way, you broke it down, and then you approach every single thing in that particular aspect. So that's one of my personal experiences and things that I would like to share with you. Now, looking at the discipline. Now, while discipline, it does not always mean discipline in career. Now, because your personal life and your professional life, given that we're so involved in our careers, whether that is, and in today's time, it doesn't matter whether that's a lady or not, right? We spend so much time of our lives just being inside into dedicating to career. I believe somewhere down the line we miss that small discipline. Sleeping for 7, 8 hours, making sure that we allocate, say, 2 hours or 3 days in a week for some sort of physical exercise, making sure that you're able to cook for yourself some healthy meals at least 2 times a week, making sure that you do some sort of charity every year, making sure that you do some sort of allocate some particular hours in your learning, your own learning, spending time with your friends, your family. All of these things are different goals that you want to achieve in a particular day, and putting them down It's just about disciplining your own entire life. Now, who wants to wake up at 11 a.m. every day? Well, I would love to, but then imagine if I was to wake up at 11 a.m. every day, and then doing all the other areas, all the other chores that I'm supposed to do, and not having structure and organization. And that's one of the biggest fears I always have, is that having to do and having a discipline and organization above and beyond your career and having that in your personal life so closely relates to your professional life, has done so much impact on your professional life. Having to maintain a small, something very small as a diary that could be your personal diary, where you went out, where you express your gratitude, whether you complain, whether you write down your to-do list or your action list, having them to strike that off every day, use of Google Notes and Google Keep, and there are enormous amount of tools available in today's time to be able to just get into that discipline and that structure and organization, that it together helps you build a career. Now, I'm not going to say that this is something for people in job looking out for a new job. My suggestion, when you jump into a job of your dream or you land into a job, that's the first thing that you should look out for. Get yourself a diary, get yourself a calendar where you're able to strike off things that you're supposed to do every day. I know a friend of mine, she always makes sure that towards the end of the day, she has 0 unread emails. And every day, that's like the target you have to achieve. And initially, I used to feel that, okay, what does this particular activity potentially help her to achieve? She was able to respond to everybody by the end of the day. And it's the structure that she had. And I just believe these small habits, in order to achieve a discipline and an organization life, helps you to have a better career. And you would see how that impacts your career in a better way. You would see that you'll be more recognized by your bosses, because they know that you respond to everything in a lot of organization and a lot of discipline. And that's one of my suggestions to you, that to incorporate those sort of suggestions and those sort of organization in your life, because that's going to take you a long way, and it's not going to leave you. You're going to have a more healthy life, a more long life, and you will be very happy with the way you're working. We all want to be busy, we all like to be busy, but it's about being happy busy, about having that smile on the face and going to office, rather than just going, oh my god, I need to get through this day today, oh my god, I need to do this today. At these small phases in life, you'll be able to see how much of an impact it does on the experience you have while working with any firm, any department in any part of the world. Now, work-life balance. Now, it's very personal to me. Anybody on the call who knows accounts and finance, and any sort of person who basically works in a very competitive environment, you have my sympathy. It's one of the things that yet again we do not excel. And if you're from Middle East, I think we're not very good at it in this part of the world, because people are away from their families. People do not, and they've come from different people have come from different ethnic backgrounds and come together with the objective of career growth and earning money. We get lost in that race. We are working over the weekends. We're working all throughout. During the COVID situation, when we started working from home initially, first thing I ever opened my eyes to was sometimes laptop, because it was constantly at the back of my mind. And the last thing I kept saw was my laptop. And I realized then eventually I was going to the doctor saying my eyes are hurting. And then, you know, I realized that there has to be a division. There has to be, work is not everything. I've said it earlier during the webinar, and I'll repeat it again. Work is a part of life. Unless you're a doctor where you're serving and saving people's life, it's okay not to have your emails on your phone, or switch it off for some point in time, to just get that division, that I'm not going to work on a Thursday evening or a Friday evening or a Sunday for X number of hours. I'm just going to switch off, or this part of my schedule is for myself, this is for my family, and this is for my work. It's fine. I think that can happen. It's doable. When people tell me it's not doable, I don't think, I probably say there's nothing it's impossible, but it's very difficult to achieve. To be able to communicate to your workplace members, whether be it your partners or your senior members, or your immediate bosses, it's very important for you to be able to say, okay, I'm now going to divide this particular aspect of my time to doing what I love. And that doing what I love could be a basketball game, FIFA, if anybody is into gaming. It could be watching my favorite, it could be watching my favorite TV series on Netflix. It could be not doing anything. It could be going to the beach. It could be taking some time off. It could be anything. There is no definition. You could go as wild as possible. It could mean partying in any place wherever you are, and just defining what works for you. Not, it's one of the very latest things. I think one of the things I read last week, which basically said, there's a inspirational speaker called Jay Shetty, and he mentioned that he took about 2 months in order to get into the habit of not checking his social media first thing in the morning. And that helped him a lot during the work-life balance. And I was very intrigued because I'm trying to get to that, but I'm not. Trust me, I tried. It lasted for a day, and that's all. And where he said that the urge to check social media was so bad every single morning that he once had to lock his laptop and his personal phone in the car before he slept, so that the next day in the morning he did not have easy access to it. So he did his morning chores and then he stepped out to it. And the thing that he said, how it helped him was, I'm gonna do what I am supposed to do for myself rather than doing something that others expected out of me. Because the reality is, if you see social media or your emails first thing in the morning, you're basically responding to somebody, doing some what other people want you to do, rather than taking some time off, having something as small as a breakfast with your family, or it could be doing yoga if you're an early morning riser, or doing some exercise, planning out your day, or do whatever. If you take a step back and see how the greatest mind on earth has ever maintained their work-life balance, you'll see everything had an organization and structure. And that gets me to one of the career hacks. That everything is related ever since I've, like, in the whole session that I have, everything would overlap to each other. And this work life balance is another thing. Like, unless you're organized and structured, you'll not be able to strike it. And you need to know what works for you. As somebody who knows me, if there's somebody on the call who knows me, I always say this: you need to know what works for you. So my team members know that Samya might take a month to switch off for her to relax and come back to work, or I might burn out after, say, 4 weeks of heavy work, which basically means 24 hours, 24/7 working. But you might have much more capacity and might last for 6 weeks. And I might have somebody who can only last like this for 3 weeks. And that leads me to saying that it is so important that you're able to divide that line and understand what works for you. And that will lead me to my next career hack. But I believe you need to know what works for you, and you need to make sure that everybody around you is comfortable with it and acceptive of it. And I think I find lack of sympathy and empathy in that particular aspect, because people are not accepting the fact that I might need one day off if I'm working for 30 days in a row or 60 days in a row. And if you're not able to do it, we need to be able to communicate, and people need to accept it, that you need a day off if you work for 60 days in a row, or say 30 days in a row. Because there is no there is no science behind how one gets tired, whether that's physically or mentally. And then you need to understand and make people understand that this is what works for you. And trust me, if you're talking about you don't know what works for you, take some time off, just relax, don't do anything in that day or a week, and you would realize that you probably have to figure it out, and you will eventually figure out what works for you. And that's also because if you don't do this, it leads to burnout. I've had one of the instances where one of my department, 2 3 years ago, where we saw a series of people, approximately 10 to 12 people, who left out in a span of, say, maybe 14 to 15 months, because of burnout. They didn't take off, they just kept pleasing their bosses by doing the stuff that they were given. They never took time off. And eventually, what led to? They were burnt out. And they left without jobs because they were so burnt out. They did not. And their risk appetite permitted them to take the time and to quit without another job, and then travel around the world, find out what they really wanted to do in life, and then go on. Imagine if those people would have taken a step back and assessed what works for them. How do they want to strike that work-life balance? They would not have reached that stage. And you sometimes have to make that conscious effort in order to do that. Now, I'll tell you one of my personal examples here is that during COVID situation, when we started work from home, we were working from home for about 5 to 6 months, and somewhere around end of July and August, I realized if I work for another week, I'm gonna exhaust myself out. I'm gonna be in a situation where probably I'll have to say, okay, I'm quitting. I'm not gonna do this anymore. And I had to have that self awakening, because if I didn't have that self awakening, I would be in a situation where I might not be able to understand. I might be able to lose my job. I might not be able to deliver as per the expectation, because the quality will suffer. So it's it's you are responsible, and you cannot put it on other people's life. You cannot blame your career, your bosses, the work pressure that you can't take a day off, because there is no one, if you say that you're tired, will force you to come for one more day. And trust me, sometimes if you take the day off or the week off, you're back with a stronger boom. You're back with more energy. You're more used to your firm, to yourself, and the whole wide experience. So it's not just about spending time with your family. It's about your own mental peace. It's about your own mental growth. So work-life balance is a is a is an agenda which is growing, specifically in Big Fours, and has given one day off to all the employees. So it's growing, and I believe that this is going to grow. It's going to get more focus around the world. Hmm. Self-reflection and analysis. Now, it may not come very naturally to people. So what I mean by self-reflection and analysis is essentially that greatest critic, because we rely on other people to give us feedback. But how many of us take 5 minutes off and say, okay, let's do, how did I perform? It could be a simple of a task, of a call, of a WebEx, of a webinar, of a project. It could be a year, it could be a client, it could be a job. It does not need any sort of it does not need any sort of definition that you need to self-reflect. There are concepts such as me. If somebody is into psychology, there's a concept of me time, spending time with yourself, where you're analyzing what am I good at, what am I bad at, what can I improve, how did I do, and be very hard. And people who generally more self-reflective, studies say they're very hard on themselves. They're very laser focused. They know exactly how to approach because they know their own shortcomings. They know what they want to achieve. During a feedback session, if like people who seek for feedback on a regular basis, be it on a call, be it on a project, tend to outperform than other people because at regular intervals they're able to get external feedback. Now, the same logic applies for internal. How many of us spare 5 minutes and say, okay, this is what I did good at? And sometimes that leads to delusion also, because you realize that, okay, I'm good at, you have the thought process, oh, I have done so much in my life, I graduated from XYZ university, I'm the best at whatever I do, so I cannot make mistakes. While in reality, we're all a bunch of imperfect human beings. We all have imperfections. We all have shortcomings, and there is always a better way for you to be able to do. And then if somebody is doing this on a regular basis, you will be able to identify. It's much easier for you to identify where you need to invest more. And that comes back to the previous career hacks that we mentioned on investment of your time and your resource. So all these suggestions that I have, or my own experiences, are somewhere down the line very interlinked. And having to be able to develop this habit of self-reflection and analysis and being your own greatest critic is one of the most hardest things that one has to develop or can develop that easily. How do you know? How would you be able to judge yourself or rate yourself without bias? We all love ourselves. We all are our own biggest. We are all proud of where we are and however what we do. but to be able to get through this stage requires a lot of maturity, requires a lot of efforts, and requires a lot of external help as well. There are ways, there are studies, but in the interest of time, I'm going to not talk about them in that much detail. But if anybody is interested, I think that we could talk about that somewhere in some other forum. But somebody wants to talk about it, somebody wants to research independently, sorry, there is immense amount of reading and analysis, which is available online, where you could probably take, okay, how do I assess myself? Where am I? What type of personality I am? There's a lot of personality tests, and trust me, those personality tests are amazing. I mean, you know some things about yourself, you need to understand and learn a lot about yourself. And another thing out of context I'll try to say here is the more amount of experiences you put your situations you put yourself into, the more easily you will be able to do it, because every day you're seeking out for different opportunities and getting yourself involved in different things. And during that process, you will learn a lot about yourself. We're not born perfections. If I start go to a dance class, I'm going to look like an idiot on the very first day, but I have to keep practicing on it again and again. And the more things I try, the better I will get at this whole practice, the whole experience. And this is something that we all have to continuously work on. And it's not a one-time thing. It has to be a continuous process. Now, I think this is going to be the last that I have on my agenda, which is the futuristic approach. I think clubbing all the things that we've spoken about today, I believe this one basically means clubbing and identifying and putting all your aspects and all your thought process in looking forward. We live in a very dynamic and we're all age and we're all looking out for a competitive edge over the others. We're all looking out for being better than the others and not leaving any stone unturned and being very good at what we are, and identifying what's going to be there. Now, because of, like I said, because of COVID situations, because of this whole pandemic thing, I believe that it's become imperative more so in order for us to analyze how things are going to run in future and how things are going to be. Now, I believe AI is the new thing and it's going to impact almost all sectors of our career, be it medicine, be it engineering, be it marketing, be it advertising, finance, accounts, the list is endless. And to be able to design when we're thinking about our career, we always talk about what we want to do or where we want to see ourselves the next 5, 10 years. And I guess you have to incorporate that future element into it. Whether you're deciding about your own analysis, when you're doing a self reflection and making yourself plan for, say, the next 10 years, you'll have to think about how things are going to be turning out in next 10 years. We're now going to be going to the groceries, I believe, in next 10 years, and everything's going to be delivered at home, sort of. And if it's in my field, if anybody's from accounts and finance, I believe that I'm an auditor myself, but soon I think robots are going to be doing what I'm doing. So what do I need to do? I need to upskill myself digitally in order to be able to keep up to it and get something on the table. If I am into literature or fashion or marketing, how are things going to impact a particular career phase or that particular industry? So that will define how my future investment or learning has to be in. Because if it's relating to coding, say, or say learning C++ or learning web designing, and that's going to matter, it's going to be more important in the future, I would have to analyze now and invest my time likewise from now into these areas. And all of that requires us to take some time off. And that's when work-life balance comes into picture. If you're constantly just struggling to do what you're asked to do and don't think about what needs to be done, you'll not be able to get ahead in the future, because in the future you will have new graduates and people who actually took some time off and started learning these new skills, and they take a toll over you guys, because then at that point in time they have the skill that actually is required. So all the subject matter that we've discussed today comes down to one thing: take a step back and see, where do we see ourselves in the next 5, 10 years? What do you think the external market's going to be like in the next 10 years? How are things going to be looking like in next 10 years? What type of experiences do I need if I need to get to the CEO of this bank? Or do I see myself as an entrepreneur? I want to have a business of my own. But are you going to have a business of your own in something which is very traditional? Because that's going to get replaced very soon, because we live in a very dynamic place. And because of this world pandemic, WHO said that we might be in for another pandemic, and we might be in a situation where we'll see that the need of the hour is to keep up with the time. Need of the hour is basically for to deal with global warming. Climate change is going to be the biggest new thing that's going to come up in the next few months. They say it's not even years; it's just months away. So what are we going to how are we going to deal with it? So we just have to make sure that every aspect of our career, 5-10 years, where are we? How do we need to tailor our career paths, our learning, our experiences, our organization, our structures, and ourselves, both personally and professionally, and design it in that way. Um, I think I like to end this. I read this book over this vacation, which is called Ikigai. Ikigai is a Japanese book, which basically means the art of finding your love, or the art of finding peace in what you do. It's the secret of finding the purpose of your life. There are multiple annotations to this. What is your purpose in life? Career is not everything. However, it's a very important part of our lives. In finding a purposeful job, it's one of the most important things. Being happy, busy is very important. Having to be able to land in a job where you think it's going to wake you up every day in the morning, that's your ikigai. In Japan, they say, there is a word that I'm forgetting, unfortunately. The the average life of a human individual is easily 100 plus, and I don't think in my current lifestyle I'm even surviving more than 70, 80. I think that also is going to be a bonus for me if I survive, given the lifestyle that we're living into. But having to find that purpose in life, it's a beautiful read. If you happen to read it, it generally talks about how you're going to be able to how to find what you're living for. And in your current job, you might not be happy about it. You might be looking for a career change. It could be a country change. It could be change in fields altogether. I had a friend who studied zoology and then moved to marketing in fashion. They are nowhere related, but she took that bold step, and she was able to get she was able to do that step because she realized she doesn't want to do something that she's not passionate about. And to be able to find that passion, your ikigai, your patience is so important. And then you'll eventually realize how much of an impact it has, not only on your professional life but over and beyond, even on your personal life. So I like to end on that note, and I leave the floor for any sort of questions, experiences that you have, and we can then discuss those areas.
Thank you so much, Ms. Soumya. It was a great session. Um, we are thrilled so much by your career hacks, because I really didn't expect you to build such a fantastic presentation in such short time. Because uh, when I approached you over LinkedIn, I thought Soumya would be telling, "Oh no, it's not a good time for me to give a presentation right now." But she quickly responded and said, "Yeah, we'll do it." So that was the first positive impact which was happened. And thank you once again from the whole NLG team. Thanks again for coming online and sharing your expertise over such a good subject. Now, what touched my heart today was the discipline in organization and the work-life balance. Okay, these two concepts are so much important, especially for me. Um, as a person who is working for a government organization. Discipline and organization, when you have missions and visions set by the founders and the leaders in front of you, you are obliged to go and follow those visions and missions, and build processes and build standard operating processes according to those visions and missions. It's difficult to understand what they are aiming at, because we come from a different background, and they have set the vision and mission as per their futuristic outlook. And it is so much difficult to align with those. And when we are getting to used to align with those, and when we are really understanding those, we simply lose a track. So it's very important to maintain that balance between the vision of the organization and our real purpose in life. Because if we are not fulfilling our purpose in life, then we don't find the satisfaction for our job, and we don't find the real satisfaction for our existence. So this webinar really changed my concept of having stick to a purposeful, or you can say giving values, or defining my values, what I want in my life, in my career. So thanks again for coming online, Ms. Soumya, and the floor is open to discussion, and anybody can come in. Sushma.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. That was a wonderful wrap up of the session. And myself as well, Soumya, your presentation was really great. It was amazing. The 7 points which you have given us on work-life balance as a total are really great. Sorry. And what I felt is one important thing, people give so much of importance to career, and they forget that career is just a part of our whole life. Career is not everything. Like, as if we look at our wheel of life, we have different concepts: spirituality, love, fun, family. There are so many things, so many areas which we should balance them, and it's not only career. So that's very important point which I loved it today. Also, the feedback, like in wherever we are, whatever we do, a feedback gives us a room for improvement. That's where we can learn and improve ourselves. And again, that is not only in career, but in each aspect, be it with our kids, our spouse, our boss, whoever it may be. It's very important. So, just a question on that, Soumya. So, what would you say? Like, how did your life with the feedback, or a coach, as you described? So, how is coach very important? How is feedback important? If you can put a light on it. Thank you.
Sure, Sushma. First, thank you, Jason. Those are really kind words, and I'm really glad that we could use some help. Sushma, to your question on how did having a constant feedback help me? So we were in I think we were in a situation where I realized that we were constantly working, and we were not getting any sort of we were getting on sort of positive feedback. So we were getting something on paper, and somebody was always continuously to, for example, was not translating to a sort of benchmark that we had at work. So we would get a sort of rating every year on a regular basis. And then I realized during that whole process that it is very important that I was losing track. I would say, I don't want to leave any stone unturned in order to not be the best at what I'm doing, XYZ. And there was always that something, and I was not knowing what that was. So there was a constant pressure on that. So when I started going for these feedback, whether it was my self-reflective feedback where I would take some time off and say, okay, even after a presentation that I first hosted, I remember I'm like, I was fumbling. Why was I fumbling? I shouldn't fumble. Okay, how can I do in the next few instances so that I don't fumble, or how to me, and having these sort of feedback, having this conversation with myself, just myself. When it went to having a career coach and having them having to speak to me, I told them they would all talk about all fancy. I think we're all hate difficult conversations for some reason. The person that what you did wrong for some reason. It's much harder when you're in the Middle East because you're coming from different backgrounds. So you have a fear of how that the other person may not respond to it well. So I started always answering on that particular aspect. First time, I almost cried the next day when I went home. And not literally, but I was just like, how could some person talk to me like this, etc., etc. But then I realized that would actually give me a future to do a future action list. It gave me, okay, this is what I'm going to do the next time somebody tells me that this actually worked, because now I'm going to be able to answer that or deal with that in a much better way. Or probably this is what I need to do the next year so I get promoted, or I grab more opportunities in order to get that. So having that honest conversation, seeking it out yourself for the next financial year or my calendar year, this is what I want to do. Somehow calendar years are very important to me. I'm the kind of person who still has those New Year resolutions and to-do lists. It lasts only for a week, I promise. But I think I'm programmed that way. That's how I've been, probably this works out for me, and I've just made my peace with it, and I try to make sure that I get the best out of that. I think that's something from my side that I like to say that helped me during my process. I think Parag has some question.
Thank you,
Hi,
Soumya.
hi.
I hope that was a few, Sushma. Yes, Parag.
Yeah. Hi, Soumya. A very good set of career hacks, I must add. I specifically wanted to comment on one part which you mentioned, wherein that each person has his or her own capacity, which is very true, And how I have been using that, like I always have worked with teams. I always tell people when they, as you know, every email is marked urgent, every task is supposed to be done yesterday, etc., etc. My standard
Yeah.
thing over there is if you push a person beyond a point, errors can happen. Do you want errors?
Yeah.
Do you want mistakes? If not, be realistic.
Yeah.
And that's how I generally manage the task. So just I quite
That's
related with
well
that.
said.
And hearing what Jason said about LinkedIn, I've sent you a LinkedIn invite. So if it comes out of the blue, it is from me, Parag.
Oh, wonderful. No, very nice to hear. That's true. If you, I've had instances. I worked for the first 2 weeks of August, and I think that was the most unproductive. Like, I just feel it was not my best work that I have delivered, because I was honestly, like I said, I was very exhausted and I needed a break. And then I was just like, okay, now I'm probably going to lead to human error, so let me not. My jobs will be at stake. It's a very difficult time of the year. But yeah, I kind of concur with what you said, Parag.
In
Thank
fact,
you.
that's what I tell people. See, each person, I tell people, you are mature enough. I mean, people are mature enough. You know when you fail. You know what is your limit. So don't
Yeah,
go beyond that.
agree.
If I talk about me
Yeah,
personally, last, I think 2008 onwards, I have never taken a break, been working. Even now, I'm currently working on something because I believe in constantly challenging myself. I mean, I go on holiday, still I'm on my laptop. Whatever I'm doing, weekends, I like to, I'm a workaholic. My family, wife are very understanding, thankfully. But that's how I am. But I don't expect others to be like that. So I agree. Each person has his limit. You know when you are going to falter, when you might start making errors, stop.
yeah,
So that's
agreed.
the approach I
Totally.
follow, and I fully agree with you. Thank you,
Mhm.
Soumya. Well presented.
Thank you, Parag.
Does anyone have any questions to ask? Please raise your hand.
Takuddin, if you're online, Takuddin,
Yeah.
you have
I
anything
just
to share?
need to know some points on this continuous investment. How you mean that? On learning or something?
Yes, I actually referred, like I said, it's a continuous investment in yourself. It could be in terms of time, it could be learning a new skill, it could be learning a new degree, it could be changing your career and investing more knowledge and having to obtain more knowledge. It could be a wide aspect of anything. It could be as simple as you learning a new dish every week. Pandemic, we saw a lot of upcoming home cooks because everybody was trying to learn a different skill. It could be even as simple as that. It could be you learning how to play football, basketball, swimming. It could be any hobby, any sort of thing that you're passionate about, just so that you do something other than work, and at the same time for your own inside career, like you are learning. If you know that you have a particular degree and you getting a new degree is going to help you advance more in the career, that's also one of your investments, because you're actually investing time above money in order to get that skill. So that's what I refer to.
Okay. I think you took some new degree or something from Columbia University recently.
Well, that was an online course
Oh,
in economics and banking.
okay. Good, good. And one more thing, how we will set our values? We were having so many values, no? So how we'll choose one of the core value? Never.
Um, See, there's no definition of value, like there's no definition of what value we talk about, right? I could give you one example and probably that could help you. So we had one of our people who joined. So I had one of my colleagues, rather the best way to say, who basically I just realized that they were the kind of people who would always say yes to their bosses and agree whatever the bosses said. The bosses probably, like, it went down to the extent I used to think, if the bosses say, even if it's night, if he says it's day, he would just say day. And then it just got me to a point where I felt that the other person had an easier chance for advancement and growth and feedback, because you're agreeing to somebody on a very regular basis. It has its own benefits. And I'm not the kind of person like that. I'm the kind of person who would call spade a spade and sometimes be overly blunt about some things that I do not agree with. I'm very opinionated that way. So that was coming with a disadvantage. It had its own disadvantage. But then I also asked myself this question: if I was to agree whatever the other person was asking me to say, would I be okay? Would I be okay doing something that I'm not comfortable with, or I do not intend to do, or I don't believe in? Am I okay to do XYZ work? And that got me to thinking that if I'm not saying go and say no to your bosses. No. What I'm asking is define what works out for you well. It didn't work out for me to say that I agree with you, my boss, because and even if I don't believe it, if I believe in it, I say. I'm not gonna say no to everything that's being told to me, but I realized that it's okay to voice out your opinion, and that was my value. Rather than being in a situation where I'm made to say yes to something, right? I'm made to do something which I really do not believe in. And that puts me in a very difficult situation because I'm hating that experience. I'm hating to do something. And it could extend above and beyond in different circumstances and situations in life. It could take a different turn. It could have a different meaning. It could have a different observation or a different meaning in your working sector. It could be a different meaning for Jason or Sushma in their lives. But that's what I mean, defining what works for you. That okay, I'm not going to be able to say yes to my boss every single time, even if it means I don't believe in it, even if it means it's going to put me into risk or anything along those lines. So just having just looking at your different risk appetite, looking at what it is, what your ethics is, what defines your work. It could also mean, for example, sparing an hour of Thursdays doing leaving work early, for example, just Thursdays, because Thursday is a weekend or any other weekend days for you. And your bosses gives you immediate work at that point in time every Thursday, just so that you're not able to go. You can probably define that and communicate it properly in order to make sure that you're able to get to it. And that's a very important aspect. It's a very important part of your life.
We already defined something, so we are going with that one. If you have some commitment with family, so we can say we have to go that one,
Correct,
like that.
correct. Whatever works for you, whatever works for you, whatever defines you, yourself, your professionalism, your work life, your professional life, it's your right. If you have a commitment, employers need to understand. And trust me, I think sometimes it's just a fear in our mind to be able to voice it out.
Yes.
It's just a fear in our mind. It's nothing. If I'm gonna say to someone that I'm dealing with a situation at home and I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to do it, and it's okay. They understand, and sometimes they don't understand. It's okay to face the blunt of it, because you did not do it because you didn't compromise with something. Imagine if you were to do it, it's gonna make it. Any more questions?
Thank you.
I don't see anyone raising hands. So if there are no questions, we would close the session. And just before that, Soumya, how was your experience with today's webinar?
Oh, I love talking, as you must have seen. I absolutely love talking. massively enjoy these sessions. It was one of a kind, first of a kind for me. So wonderful. I thank you both for the opportunity. I know Jason approached me out of the blue, and I was like, yeah, this opportunity. So thank you very much. It's a great experience for me, and somebody can take something out of it, because these things don't come easy. Some things I've paid the cost of it, and I've learned these lessons, so they don't come easy all the time. So if some
Yes, sure.
Thank you so much for coming. Yeah, let's wind up, Sushma.
Yes, sure.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
All right.
Soumya. Thank you, Jason.
all right, thank you
Thank
all.
you,
Thanks
everybody.
Thank you all. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Sushma and Soumya.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Good
Bye.
evening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Good day.